Hi, everybody. I'm Mike from Zilla Blitz, and welcome. Starting with week 2 of the Shores of Tripoli online Tournament of Champions, we started creating weekly midweek updates for the No Enemies Here gaming YouTube channel. Now, this video is a compilation of those 4 updates, week 2, week 3, week 4, and then a final update. And be sure to check out Kevin's impersonations of some YouTube gaming channel reviewers sprinkled throughout this video. Enjoy. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Shores of Tripoli Tournament Review. I'm Alexander.
And I'm Grant. Was that too much?
No, it's great. Hi, everybody. We've got a midweek update for the Shores of Tripoli online tournament, specially produced for No Enemies Here. Kevin, do you want to update us on how the tournament's going and the structure?
Sure. So the tournament has been running for 2.5 weeks now. The tournament is structured in that there are 44 teams of 4 people, 176 players overall, and each week, each player will play once as the Americans and once as the Tripolitans. Like I said, we're in the middle of week 3 now, so some people played 4, 5, 6 games. After the 4 weeks, 8 games, we'll have some both team awards and team playoffs, and then same for individuals. So while we're at it, why don't you just tell us how the individuals are doing in the tournament so far?
Because we have a number of players kind of competing for that top player spot, right? So as of right now, we have 8 players that are still undefeated, 5 players with all wins. We've got Lauren from Rocks of Gibraltar, who's kind of spearheading their first place effort at this point. Corsair Joe, a.k.a. Joe Schmidt from Shadow Dawn, who has risen up to second. Their team has risen to second place in the tournament. Nick Dubbs from Littoral Commanders is at 5 wins and no losses. Pete Steele, or P. Steele from Two Can Play That Game, another one of our top teams at 5-0. And then we've got Joshua Grove from Virginia Military Institute at 4-0, who's also undefeated. We have 3 players who are undefeated yet have one tie. We've got Matt Kay, or Matt Corda from Poutine Triumphant, our Canadian team with the awesome logo. We've got Dan Leader from the Patriots, who I know has been talking about their excellent team name. And then Michael Murphy from Team Monrovia, who I understand is also a diplomat from Liberia. Their whole team is diplomats from Liberia, correct?
Yes. So exciting to have such an international flair in the tournament.
So we've talked about some of the team leaders, but I think you're guessing the audience wants to hear about a different group of competitors in this competition.
Well, if I know the viewers of No Enemies Here at all, it's that they probably want to know how their favorite game designers are doing. So I'm just going to list through how they're doing. So Gilberto Lopez, who is my co-designer on the Halls of Montezuma, which people will be able to play test on the Rally This Troop site where the tournament is taking place, is currently sitting at 3-3. Scott Balaban, who's also on the FAPA Wolverines team, is 1-2-1, and he has a designer listing on Board Game Geek, so I thought I would mention him, but I'm actually not familiar with any of his games. Now, the team that I think a lot of people are paying attention to is the Glorious Marine Task Force, GMT, and that's made up of Harold Buchanan, Jason Matthews, Mark Herman, and Volko Runke. Volko and Harold are both holding their own. They're both 3-3. Jason and Mark still have a couple more games to play, but they're starting to really come into shape. So I think everyone will be watching them in the 4th round for sure. If we slide down to Team Jurisprudence, boy, you know what? I got his game right here, and I can't remember. Alex Berry, that's right. He just designed Corrupt Bargain, which I'm going to be playing this weekend. He's actually having an excellent tournament. He's at 5-1, just that one loss, so he's still doing pretty well. The Littoral Commanders is the Georgetown University Wargaming Society team, and while one of their players, Nick Dubbs, is doing great, Sebastian Bay is winless after 6 games. So I've offered to give him some special tutoring about how to play and how to roll dice better, and we'll hopefully that'll work out.
So they have to shake the monitor before they roll. I don't think.
Yes, that's what you have to do. So,
right.
Not a game designer, but Oscar Oliver from Snafu Games in Barcelona is playing in the tournament, and he is currently sitting at 3 wins and 2 losses, so holding up the Barcelona pride quite well there. There's a team called Shadow Dawn, which has three designers actually. Joe Schmidt, as you mentioned before, is doing quite well. David McDonough, who designed Dawn's Early Light for Compass Games, a game I'm actually very fond of, is sitting at 3-1, and Soba Yusuf is sitting at 3 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. And so that team, as you say, that's probably the second place team so far in the tournament. Second, not designer, but Kathleen Donahue from Team Labyrinth, from Labyrinth store here in DC. Her username is Queen Kathleen of Labyrinth, and she has 4 wins and 2 losses. So we're very proud of how she's doing. The Graybeards, as I'm scrolling down here, has 2 designers. Wes Crawford, who has an excellent train game, and he's really starting to experiment with some interesting ways to approach historical gaming, is sitting at 2-2. And then Ryan Howman, who made the excellent Brave Little Belgium, White Eagle Defiant, and of course the Charles S. Roberts Awards winning Lucky Little Luxembourg, is also unfortunately on the schneid and has 0 wins. But I'm sure he's going to pick it up. There's 2 more designers, and in fact, our 2 female designers just happen to where their teams are listed alphabetically are on there. Jan Poston Day, who's working on a game for us called Great Cities Washington, D.C., has 4 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. So she's on the outside of being in that very top consideration. And then my wife, who is mad that I outed her that she's playing as McMerlin, which is the name of our 2 cats. She's sitting at 2-3 right now. Although I've watched her games, and 2 games she just had the worst luck. And in fact, one of those games, Legendary Tactics, the site they do playthroughs and such, walked through one of those games, and it's actually an excellent way to kind of learn about the Shores of Tripoli and kind of some of the strategies and how to play online. So that's all of our designers, and there's a wide array of results among those designers.
Fantastic. And I think that brings us to the end of this update. And we'll be back in a couple days on the Fort Circle TV channel with a full update of the Week 3 action. And so you can check for that there. And thanks to No Enemies Here for hosting this.
Thanks a lot. See you later.
Take care, everybody.
Welcome to a special episode of The Discriminating Gamer. This is a special episode for No Enemies Here about the 2022 The Shores of Tripoli Online Tournament of Champions. And that reminds me of a joke. What do you call a soldier who has survived mustard gas and pepper spray? You call him a seasoned veteran. Ho ho ho!
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike from Zilla Blitz.
I'm Kevin from Fort Circle Games.
We're continuing our special coverage for No Enemies Here of the Shores of Tripoli Online Tournament of Champions. Now we're going to talk about upcoming playoff implications both for teams and individual. Big news there. Before we get to that, let's take a look at some of the prizes for the tournament.
So, as we've talked about, there's an overall team prize that I really do not want a European team to win because it's rather large. This is a William Massey painting of the Battle of Tripoli, which I love. It's been in my house for like 3 years because I bought this prior to expecting to have an in-person tournament here in Washington, D.C. So my wife will be very happy for it to find a new home. For the top individual prize is the Preble Medallion, which is this lovely medallion. Let me see if it's easy to pop out. Of course, it won't be when I'm on camera. There we go. And then on the back, it shows the Battle of Tripoli. It comes in this lovely box that actually one of our participants recommended. There's some other prizes. There's lots of shirts and totes and maps, and we'll be sending those out to lots of people. We like to give lots of awards away. And then there's also some Barzo 54 millimeter painted. There's 7 Marines and 7 Tripolitan Pirates. So we're pretty excited about those prizes. And I think the prize that everyone is looking forward to is the David Thompson Top Human Being of the Tournament prize. There's a lot of competition for that, so we'll see who wins that.
Excellent. Very good. Let's go now to take a look at the teams that are vying for our playoff spots in our championship week.
Sounds like a plan.
We have right now, Rocks of Gibraltar has been playing Shadow Dawn and has been putting kind of a thumping on them, if you would. So they have guaranteed their spots in the finals, correct?
Yes, Rocks of Gibraltar are definitely going to be the top seed in the final round.
And where it gets interesting is everybody else potentially fine, because the top two positions will guarantee, the top 2 point total teams will be guaranteed to make the playoffs. We know that one is the Rocks of Gibraltar, but that second spot is up in the air. Right now, the replacements at 20 wins, 8 losses, and 2 ties have 42 points, with the potential to rise to 46 points. However, any team that has 11 losses and no ties could potentially equal their 42 points. So if the replacements were to lose their last 2 matches, we have a lot of teams in contention. And interestingly enough, Team Sunflower and the Commodores are 2 other teams that have a strong potential to reach that final round. And Team Sunflower and the Commodores control their fate because they're playing each other. So if either of those teams were to win out, they would surpass the replacements no matter what they do and get that second spot. So we're looking at a situation where the Rocks of Gibraltar are in, and we have any number of teams, even going down as far as 20th place to Wellington's men at 14, 10, and 1, who, if they win out and the replacements were to lose their last 2 games, could potentially make that second playoff spot. We're also looking at a spot where we could have a number of teams in second place too. And then do you want to talk about what happens if we have 2, 3, 4, 5 teams tied for that second spot?
Well, and then those teams will have to enter a quick playoff before then to see who faces the Rocks of Gibraltar in the championship.
And we know the Rocks of Gibraltar then is in, but we'll have to tune back into our next update to see how this is all played out. Lots of things happening, and it's changing almost as you're watching it too, because a lot of these teams are finishing up those games. Should we shift now to take a look at another interesting situation, which is our individual player results? Because as interesting as the team results is, we also have a lot of different ways this can play out as well.
Well, actually, so the individual results are starting to become very clear. So Lauren Hartsfield from Rocks of Gibraltar is the only person who will finish the tournament with 8 wins, and she has the top seed. Now, the question is, how many people will also make the tournament? I want to highlight Matt Kay from Poutine Triumphant, a Canadian. We love Canadians in our tournament. He has 5 wins and 1 draw. So if he were to win his last 2 matches, then he would be the only other undefeated, and there would be no playoff. It would just be the top 2 teams, top 2 individuals playing for the Preble medallion. However, if he draws or if he loses, then we look at all the people who have 14 points. And while there's already 2 players, Miles and Alden, who have 7 wins and 1 loss, there's, I think, another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players who have 1 loss, but they'll need to win the rest of their matches to then be 7 and 1. Matt Kay, if he were to draw one of his matches, so he would have 6 wins and 2 draws, would also have 14 points. So that looks like, barring him getting 15 points, it's all these players who have 14 points. Now, what will happen is Lauren is already in the finals. Everyone else will play a single elimination tournament to get to that other spot, and the higher seeded player, based on their naval prestige points, gets to choose which side they want to be in that 1-game playoff.
It'd be a bold move to choose the U.S. side in that.
Oh, well, so although Tripoli certainly is winning more games overall, if you look at the top games, actually, where it's just like the teams that are at the top, when they're playing each other, the United States has a slight winning advantage. So we'll see what happens.
Isn't that interesting? Because that plays into that idea that as you become more familiar with the game, you get better at play. The game evens out. To say that, like we've seen
that's
early.
The notion.
Yes, and I noticed in the later rounds too, we're seeing more U.S. wins on the whole, as opposed to what we're seeing in the first round. So that's interesting. So could there perhaps be a slight advantage as the U.S. player at the higher levels? So it does become an interesting decision then if you're one of these players. It'd be interesting to see what Lauren, our 8-0 player, does. And congratulations for a perfect 8-0 record. She's the only person in the history of the Shores of Tripoli online tournaments to be able to claim that 8-0 undefeated record, right?
It's like an Olympic record.
It really is, right? Uh-huh. So there you have it. Lots of interesting possibilities for the second positions, both in the team playoffs and in the individual playoffs. These will all play out over the next few days. Join us next Monday or Tuesday on the Fort Circle TV channel. We're going to talk about how this is all played out. We're going to lead right into the Shores of Tripoli Online Tournament of Champions Championship Week. So a lot to look forward to. Thanks, everybody.
Another update for the Shores of Tripoli for No Enemies Here.
Let me tell you something about the Shores of Tripoli. At $60, this game is pure piracy. These gold coins, they're not even gold. They're not even chocolate. Crazy. This game is for billionaires only. You'd have to be crazy. No, you'd have to be harebrained to be any part of their tournament.
Hi, I'm Mike from Zilla Blitz.
And I'm Kevin from Fort Circle Games.
Welcome to the Week 4 Shores of Tripoli Online Tournament of Champions special update for No Enemies Here. Now, the tournament is drawing into its final stages, and we have a much better picture of both the team and the individual playoffs. But we wanted to start today with some of our individual awards for the tournament. I'm going to start off with our first award. Goes to the top U.S. player. Now, this goes to Alexander Lukowicz from California Dreaming, who was a 4-0 with the U.S. side with naval prestige point total of 59 points. Amazing performance. Congratulations to Alexander.
And the top Tripolitan player was Darren Rocket from MOD Culture from the UK. So I have to ship something to the UK. And he was 4-0 with 70 naval prestige points.
We also have a Stephen Decatur Young Commander Award. Now, this goes to Cody Ross from the Thomas McLaren School, playing for Otto von Bismarck. He went 7-1, and he could also win the overall player, as he's in that competition for the top player award, too.
And finally, we have the David Thompson Top Human Being Award. Now, normally, my wife would win this every year, but she has decided to take herself out of consideration. And so Sebastian Bay of Littoral Commanders has won the award because he is truly the hardest working man in wargaming.
Fantastic. And now let's take a look at how our playoffs are shaping up. We'll start with the team totals here. We have 3 teams still in contention, correct? Could have a potential to walk away with the top award. Rocks of Gibraltar, in their last week in week 4, put on another impressive performance, knocking Shadow Dawn down in the standings and out of the final competition. They now stand at 26 wins, 5 losses, and 1 tie. And we know they're going to be one of our 2 final teams. Now, the replacements, if things were to end right now, the replacements are in second place with 42 points. However, lurking in the shadows is the Georgetown Board Gamers, who have played 29 matches and have 36 points. If they win all their last 3 matches, they would tie with the replacements, forcing a playoff between the replacements and the Georgetown Board Gamers for the honor of going up against Rocks of Gibraltar in a best-of-9 series for the final championship top team award.
Very well explained. Very well explained. Now I get to talk about the individual awards.
Which is a lot harder.
Yeah, well, actually not. So the Preble Medallion will go to the best individual player. And currently Lauren Hartsfield of the Rocks of Gibraltar, she went 8-0. She has the top seed, and she has a bye to the finals. Now there are 4 players who were 7-1. Cody from Otto von Bismarck, Miles, Lauren's husband from Rocks of Gibraltar, Alden from the Royal Navy, and Keisho from the Commodores. And the 4 of them will face off against each other in a playoff and single elimination. The higher seed gets to choose which side they want to be. The winners then will face off against each other. And then finally, the winner of that will face off against Lauren. And that final is the best of 3 series. So we'll see who wins. So
lots of interesting combinations. Possibly have a husband-wife final for the top player, which would be interesting.
I would not want to be in that household, depending on who wins and loses that one. So
lots to look forward to. We'll be back in a few days on the Fort Circle TV channel with a new update as things take shape as we head into the playoffs. Thanks so much for watching.
See y'all.
Hello, I'm a charming and handsome Canadian man, and now I'm going to talk about the Shores of Tripoli online tournament.
Hi, I'm Mike from Zilla Blitz.
Hi, I'm Kevin from Fort Circle Games.
And welcome to our final wrap-up episode for the 2022 The Shores of Tripoli Online Tournament of Champions. Now, the tournament is concluded, and we have some final results in. We're going to start by taking a look at the team results. And here we can see the final standings. Now, the Rocks of Gibraltar finished number 1, and the replacements finished second. So those 2 teams squared off in a best-of-9 championship round. And as we can see here, it started off, although the Rocks of Gibraltar had kind of easily dispatched pretty much every opponent throughout the 4 weeks of the regular tournament, coming up against the replacements after 4 matches, it was 2 wins and 2 wins apiece, with, surprisingly, Lauren, who had been undefeated over the course of the tournament, losing the opening match of the championships here. However, Lauren rebounded for a victory in game number 5, giving the Rocks of Gibraltar a 3-2 lead in games. Then her husband Miles picked up their fourth victory. Dave P. finished off the replacements with the win. The Rocks of Gibraltar, congratulations, became the champions of the tournament with a 5-2 win over the replacements in the championship round. Now, we also had individual championships going on, and I think, Kevin, do you want to talk about those?
Sure, absolutely. So we had one person, Lauren, who was 8-0, and so she received a bye to the finals. And then we had 4 players who all had 7-1 records. And so they played in a mini single elimination playoff to who would be facing Lauren in the finals. And so in that first round, we saw Kelsey defeat Cody, and we saw Alden defeat Miles. And then they both advanced, and in that match, Kelsey defeated Alden. Now, the interesting thing is the higher seed was able to pick which side they wanted to be. Each higher seed picked Tripoli, and each higher side lost to Tripoli because the United States won all of those matches. So then we went to best of 3 finals between Kelsey and Lauren. And Lauren decided, because she was the higher seed, to be Tripoli, she would be first, and then in the third game if necessary. Kelsey won as the United States, but then Lauren was able to win as the United States and then win that final third game as Tripoli. So Lauren Hartsfield is the individual champion and has won the Preble medallion that we'll be sending to her shortly. So, and the thing that I thought was interesting is that of our 176 players, about a quarter of the field was female, but the top 2 players in the finals were both women. So that was good to see.
And I know that Lauren got the player of the week in the very first week of the tournament. And little did we know then that she would continue that dominance for the whole tournament. I mean, the only player to go undefeated during the regular season, the first 4 weeks of the tournament, and of course being a leading force in the team and the individual playoffs to pull out that. So congratulations to her and to the Rocks of Gibraltar for their outstanding work. And I know we've talked about this before too, but it was interesting to see, as you mentioned, that the United States won 5 out of the 6 matches in the individual playoffs there.
Yes. And, and they also won 3 out of 7 in that best of 7 or best of 9, only 7 games played in the team. So I think that, people are starting to learn how to play the United States. So.
Right. And as a designer, that's probably a good sign, because early on, Tripoli was winning a lot, right?
Yes.
Overall. But then you notice that at the higher levels, against the players, the perhaps the more experienced players were doing better as the United States. And then as the tournament went on, everything kinds of evens out, which is fun to see.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
with that, we've come to the end of our coverage here of the Shores of Tripoli 2022 Online Tournaments of Champions. Thanks for tuning in.
And we hope you all had fun. Thanks.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Queens drank rum. I'm drinking whiskey. I'm ready.